Wow, sure is a miserable day. I'm not gonna let that ruin my mood. Let's clean this table a little, it's a bit filthy. That's better. Good enough. Good afternoon, everyone. I doubt I can do this one-handed. What do you know? Cheers to all of you guys out there on YouTube. Today I'm talking about culture shock. It's a very real thing. The reason I'm talking about culture shock is actually some of the questions I've been asked recently by some of my subscribers. They're setting off warning bells in my head. You know, if you're asking questions like that, means you are probably going to suffer from some serious culture shock. I always thought something like culture shock was some sort of an excuse, new age nonsense excuse for people who are too weak, can't handle change. And in some ways I still do. It's still very real, just depends on how you react to it. When you're thrust in a situation where basically everything's different, complete change in your life, surroundings and all that, you are going to suffer culture shock. Of course, if you come from a place like I do, where there's not that much culture to begin with, you can handle it a lot easier, let's put it that way. China's a fantastic place, wonderful, with its own charms, you know, so much going for it, but it's not the same as the place you come from. I mean, it sounds stupidly obvious for me to say that, but it is not the same. So the same rules don't apply. It's not the same atmosphere. You know, everything that your life has been grounded and based on up until this point changes, and in a good way for some, you know, in a lot of ways, but also in a bad way too. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just you can't come to China and expect it to be the same. You can't expect to have the same rights. You can't expect to find pizza sauce on the pizzas. That was one of the questions I got. A subscriber of mine was concerned that they use ketchup instead of pizza sauce. Well, if you're asking that kind of question, then I'm afraid to say you're probably not going to stick around very long here. You can barely find cheese or deodorant, to be honest. Put it to you this way. If you live in one of these big cities like Shenzhen, like where I live, yes, you'll get Pizza Hut, you'll get Papa John's, a couple of big franchises. There are a few sort of supermarkets that are specifically catering to, I don't know, the rich people, the Hong Kong people, the kind of foreign people that come over the border. So you'll be able to well, it's expensive, but you'll still be able to find cheese and bread and things like that, like real bread, and deodorants, but at a huge premium, and also only in some very, very specific spots. It's not easy to get. If I want cheese now, I can't just go to the local shop and get it. I'll have to go to a specific place that's probably about I don't know, a good 30 kilometers away, and go buy my stuff there for horrendously overpriced prices. So basic necessities that you're kind of used to aren't around. So just bear that in mind. What else? You don't need to, well, you have to leave behind all your ideas of your rights, let's put it that way. I know specifically that Americans always have this big thing about suing people and oh, you cut me off, or you did something to me, so it's your fault, or you know, I could sue you, and all that nonsense. Throw that out of the window. It doesn't apply here. You can kick up a stink and threaten to sue someone or whatever you want, and all they're going to do is laugh at you or just plainly ignore you, because the honest truth is none of that stuff matters here. Having been a manager at a few companies, I know I've had disgruntled employees who sort of jumped up and down and threatened all sorts of nonsense, and the only thing that ever happens is that they look very stupid and walk away with their tail between their legs, because there's nothing they can actually do about it. That's of course a good and a bad thing. It works on both sides, so yeah. What else? Basically, you're coming to China. So the rules here are Chinese rules. The food here is Chinese food. The standards here are Chinese standards. You know, I drive in traffic every day, come into trouble with all these stupid drivers who don't know how to drive, cutting me off, doing ridiculous, absurd things on the road. But, you know, I've passed the point where I get angry and jump up and down and, you know, drive aggressively and try to cut them off. And, you know, okay, I do it sometimes, but most of the time I just let it go. And you say, hey, well, you know, this is China, and something you're going to have to deal with. All right, back to culture shock. Now, I've seen firsthand the effects of culture shock a few times now, in fact 3 times. And I'll tell you them because maybe, just perhaps they'll give you an idea, maybe you could see in yourself that this might happen to you. First one is quite a few years ago. I was a manager at a training company, and an American girl came to work there. And basically, I know this is going to be a bit weird, but she ran away because she couldn't handle cockroaches. Now, she was living in a cheap apartment, in a cheap area. I think the company put her up in that cheap apartment. But, you know, there were cockroaches in there. And basically, she just didn't turn up for work one day. And we sent someone over to check her apartment, and walked into the apartment and just found hundreds and hundreds of dead cockroaches that she'd been spraying with, you know, sort of insect spray, lying on the floor, an absolute mess, just this disgusting, you know, cockroach graveyard. And I know it sounds disgusting, it was disgusting. Anyway, never heard from her. She just up and left like that, no warning. But, you know, a few days before that we could see she just couldn't cut it, you know. It's difficult as well when you can't speak the language and no one understands you. And as much as you scream and shout, jump up and down, it's not going to help you, you know. In places like, well, in America or the UK, if a restaurant or a shop does something wrong, you know, and you make a stink and you start getting aggressive or loud about it, usually they'll try to appease you, hush you up, and give you what you want. It doesn't work like that here. You just end up looking like an idiot. Number 2. And now, relatively, I'd say middle-aged, late middle-aged, someone in his late 50s. I believe he was, I could be wrong here, I think he's from Australia. And he was living in Thailand and then came here to Shenzhen to try and find work. And he was a roommate of some friends of mine, because they had a free room in their house they were letting out. And well, he soon figured out that Shenzhen especially is not like Thailand. It's not the same vibe, you know. In a city like this, if you want to come here, and he wanted to come teach English, you have to realize that there's a lot of competition. The people teaching English here are experienced, they're good at what they do, and you can't just casually come in here and try to, never having done it before, find a job. So he kept failing at his job interviews, he kept failing at all his romantic interests, let's just put it that way. It wasn't here long, probably about a month, and then suddenly one day there was a note on his bed saying, sorry guys, I'm going back to Thailand, and that was it. Second culture shock victim. The third one was a very similar situation. Once again, just somebody who couldn't handle it here and flipped out and left because the company that she was working for just wouldn't do what she wanted, so she just up and left. You know, you have to be somebody who can survive by themselves. You have to be somebody who is capable of taking care of yourself is really the bottom end, and someone who's willing to accept responsibility for their own actions. You know, if you trip and fall over a brick on the road, you can't sue the government or someone for putting a brick there. You have to tell yourself, hey, I'm a stupid idiot, I tripped over a brick. You know, so you got to change that mentality. You can't have this blame other people, the world owes me something mentality, because then you will definitely not survive here. I guess that's about all I need to talk on the subject, really. Just be prepared. A lot of things are different here. No deodorant, well, it's difficult to find. Cheese is difficult to find. Dairy products in general. Fresh milk you can't get here. You can only get that long life crap, which is not good. There are a lot of big branches here now. You can get Starbucks, Pizza Hut, KFC, McDonald's, Burger King, in the big cities anyway. But if you're living out in the sticks or slightly rural, even a smaller village or city or town or whatever, you're going to be lost, you know. All the things you're kind of used to, it's going to be difficult to find. So be prepared for a completely new experience. And if you're willing, you know, to go through something new, you'll be fine.